"We're turning their strength into a weakness," he said quietly. The battle was far from over. But for the first time, humanity had found a way to challenge a seemingly invincible enemy. Not through brute force, but through creativity. Through understanding. Through the most powerful weapon humans possessed, their mind. The USS Blackstar continued its silent mission. The alien collective had no idea what was coming. The alien fleet's perfect coordination began to crumble. What had once been a synchronized machine of destruction now looked like a confused swarm of disconnected vessels. Captain Jiho Park watched the holographic displays with calm concentration. Yuna Kim's console started showing impossible readings. Alien ships were now moving in random patterns, their communication networks fragmenting with each passing moment. The digital viruses had done their work perfectly, exploiting tiny weaknesses in the collective's technological infrastructure. "They're losing control," Dong Hyuk said, his voice a mixture of scientific fascination and quiet excitement. The alien systems were collapsing from within, turning their own advanced technology into a weapon of self-destruction. Communication channels between alien ships became increasingly garbled. Navigation systems sent conflicting instructions. Weapon platforms began to misfire, sometimes targeting their own fleet. The collective's greatest strength, its perfect coordination, had become its fatal weakness. Captain Park understood what was happening. Humans had always been masters of adaptation. Where other species saw limitations, humans saw opportunities for creative problem-solving. The alien collective had believed their technology made them invincible. They were wrong. Haiwan Choi tracked the spreading digital infection. Each virus was learning, adapting, finding new ways to create confusion. What had started as tiny disruptions were now becoming massive system failures. The alien fleet was slowly tearing itself apart. On the bridge, the crew worked with quiet intensity. No one celebrated. They understood the complexity of what was happening. This was not a traditional battle. This was a war fought through intelligence, through understanding the deepest vulnerabilities of a technological system. The first major collapse happened suddenly. An entire squadron of alien ships stopped moving. Their communication systems went dark. Then another squadron. Then another. The perfect machine was breaking down, piece by piece. "They can't understand what's happening," Yuna observed. The aliens had no concept of the kind of adaptive thinking the humans had introduced. Their systems were designed for perfect predictability. But humans introduced something unexpected: creativity. Captain Park watched the displays. Mathematical projections had shown humanity's defeat as certain. But mathematics didn't understand human spirit. They didn't understand the ability to find solutions where others saw only problems. Dong Hyuk explained the technical details to the bridge crew. The viruses were more than simple computer code. They were intelligent systems that could learn, adapt, and exploit the smallest vulnerabilities. Each moment, they became more sophisticated. The alien collective's leadership began to panic. Their communication networks showed increasing signs of total breakdown. Ships that were once perfectly synchronized now moved like confused, wounded animals. Their technology, once their greatest weapon, was now destroying them. "We're not destroying them," Captain Park said quietly. "We're making them destroy themselves." Hours passed. The alien fleet continued to collapse. What had been an unstoppable force of destruction was now a confused, fragmented mess. Their ships fired randomly. Their communications became increasingly nonsensical. Haiwan tracked the spread of digital disruption. "Total system failure is approaching," she reported. Her voice remained calm, scientific. This was not an emotional moment. This was a moment of pure, intelligent strategy. The turning point had arrived. Humanity had found a way to challenge a seemingly invincible enemy. Not through massive weapons. Not through brute force. But through understanding. Through creativity. Through the unique human ability to see solutions where others saw only problems. Outside the ship's windows, space remained dark and cold. But something had changed. The unstoppable alien fleet was no longer unstoppable. They had been defeated by something they could never understand: human intelligence. Captain Park allowed himself a small smile. The battle was not over. But for the first time, humanity had a real chance. The USS Blackstar continued its silent mission. The alien collective was about to learn a painful lesson about underestimating human creativity. The final moments of the battle arrived with unexpected silence. Captain Jiho Park watched as the alien fleet, once an unstoppable force of destruction, collapsed into complete chaos. The USS Blackstar had transformed from a simple ship into humanity's most powerful weapon. Yuna Kim's console showed the complete breakdown of the collective's communication networks. Ships that had once moved with perfect coordination now drifted aimlessly. Some fired randomly. Others simply stopped moving, like giant mechanical corpses floating in the vast darkness of space. Dong-hyuk Lee watched the digital infection spread. What they had created was more than a simple computer virus. It was an intelligence system that had learned to exploit every single weakness in the alien technology. The collective's greatest strength, their perfect technological integration, had become their ultimate destruction. "We're winning," Haiwan Choi said quietly. Her voice carried no excitement, just a calm understanding of what they had achieved. Humanity had done something unprecedented. They had defeated a technologically superior enemy not through brute force, but through intelligence. The alien leadership began to panic. Their communication channels became increasingly desperate. Messages became fragmented, confused. Ships that were once part of a perfect machine now struggled to maintain any kind of coordination. Captain Park understood the deeper meaning of their victory. This was more than a military battle. This was a demonstration of human creativity. Where other species saw boundaries, humans saw opportunities. Where others saw limitations, humans found solutions. Entire squadrons of alien ships began to collide. Their navigation systems were completely destroyed. Weapon platforms fired randomly, sometimes destroying their own vessels. The perfect technological machine was tearing itself apart from within. They never understood, Dong-hyuk explained to the bridge crew. They thought technology was about perfection. But technology is about adaptation. Hours of careful planning had led to this moment. The digital viruses had spread through the alien network like an intelligent disease. Each moment, they learned. Each moment, they found new ways to create confusion. The collective's technology had become its own worst enemy. The first major alien leadership ships went completely dark. Their communication systems collapsed. Then another. Then another. The unstoppable force was now completely paralyzed. Yuna tracked the final stages of the digital infection. "Total system failure," she reported. Her voice was calm, scientific. This was not an emotional moment. This was a moment of pure, intelligent strategy. Outside the ship's windows, space told the story of humanity's most unexpected victory. Thousands of alien ships, once a terrifying force of destruction, now drifted like dead machines. Some collided. Some simply stopped moving. The perfect technological army had been defeated by something it could never understand. Captain Park reflected on the battle. Mathematical projections had shown humanity's defeat as certain. But mathematics didn't understand human spirit. They didn't understand the ability to find solutions where others saw only problems. The USS Blackstar had become more than a ship. It was a symbol of human potential. A demonstration that creativity, intelligence, and adaptability were more powerful than any advanced technology. "We're not just survivors," Captain Park said quietly. "We're creators. We're problem solvers." The final alien communications became increasingly desperate. Their perfect system had completely collapsed. Ships that were once part of a synchronized force were now nothing more than floating metal objects. Humanity had won. Not through massive weapons. Not through traditional warfare. But through understanding. Through creativity. through the unique human ability to see solutions where others saw only limitations. Dong-hyuk looked at the final simulation results. "We did it," he said simply. Yuna smiled. A rare moment of pure emotion in the scientific environment of the bridge. Captain Park watched the vast field of defeated alien ships. This was more than a victory. This was a statement about human potential. About the power of intelligent, creative thinking. The USS Blackstar had turned the tide. Humanity had shown the universe something important. They were not just another species to be conquered. They were survivors. They were creators. They were unstoppable. The vast emptiness of space stretched before the USS Blackstar, a sleek vessel that seemed almost fragile against the backdrop of cosmic darkness. Captain Jiho Park stood on the bridge, his eyes fixed on the holographic display showing the approaching alien armada. The collective's fleet was massive, a seemingly endless swarm of metallic shapes that blocked out the stars. Humanity was losing. Every colony in the outer sectors had fallen, reduced to nothing more than dust and scattered memories. The communication logs told a grim story of destruction, planet after planet silenced, billions of lives extinguished in moments. The alien collective moved with a cold, calculated precision that made human resistance look pathetic. Tactical Officer Yuna Kim monitored the incoming data streams. Her fingers moved quickly across the quantum interfaces, analyzing the impossible odds they were about to face. The ship's systems hummed with a quiet intensity, a contrast to the chaos that waited just beyond their protective shields. "They're not even trying to communicate anymore," Yuna whispered, her voice tight with tension. The alien fleet had become something beyond a military force, it was a machine of total annihilation. Captain Park understood something the aliens did not. Humans were not just another species to be conquered. They were survivors, adaptable, capable of finding hope in the darkest moments. The USS Blackstar was more than a ship, it was humanity's last defiant breath. The ship's engineer, Dong-hyuk Lee, had spent months modifying their systems. Every circuit, every computer line was a potential weapon. Where other military strategists saw destruction, Dong-hyuk saw opportunities. The ship could become something the aliens would never expect. In the crew quarters, soldiers checked their equipment. Some wrote quick messages home, knowing this might be their final mission. Others sat in silent meditation, their faces a mix of fear and determination. They were not just fighting for survival, they were fighting for every human who had already been lost. The collective ships began to take more defined shapes on the display. Massive vessels that looked like intricate machines, each one capable of destroying entire planetary systems. They moved with a choreographed precision that seemed almost alive, like a single organism hunting its prey. Captain Park studied the incoming data. The alien technology was generations ahead of human understanding. Their weapons could shred battleships in seconds, their communication networks were impossible to penetrate. Every mathematical projection showed the same result, total human extinction. But mathematics didn't understand human spirit. Yuna's console suddenly flickered. A strange signal began to pulse, something unexpected. Dong-hyuk leaned forward, his eyes wide with sudden understanding. "Captain," he called out, "I think I've found something." The bridge crew held their breath. Outside, the alien fleet continued its relentless approach. Millions of lives hung in the balance. The USS Blackstar represented humanity's final chance, a small spark of hope against an overwhelming darkness. Captain Park allowed himself a slight smile. The aliens believed victory was certain. They had no idea what was about to happen. "Prepare all systems," he commanded. His voice was calm, almost casual. But beneath that calmness burned an unbreakable human determination. They would fight. They would find a way. The ship's quantum engines began to pulse with an energy that seemed to defy known physics. Something was happening, something the alien collective could never predict. In that moment, on the bridge of the USS Blackstar, humanity's most incredible story was about to begin. Space remained dark. The alien fleet continued its approach. But something had changed. A spark of possibility had emerged, small, yet bright enough to challenge the entire universe. The battle for human survival was about to begin. The USS Blackstar's bridge buzzed with quiet intensity. Captain Jiho Park watched as Dong-hyuk Lee explained his radical plan. Traditional warfare meant direct combat, but Dong-hyuk saw something different. He saw the alien collective's technology as a complex system with hidden weaknesses. They think like machines, Dong-hyuk explained, pointing to complex holographic displays. But machines can be tricked. The ship's core systems were not ordinary. Each circuit, each quantum processor had been redesigned to become a weapon of information and disruption. Where most military strategists would plan massive weapon attacks, Dong-hyuk planned something more subtle. Yoona Kim worked alongside him, her fingers dancing across multiple interfaces. She understood computer networks better than most humans. The alien collective believed their communication systems were perfect. They were wrong. Every technological system has a weakness. Every network has a potential breakpoint. Humans had always been masters of finding those small, critical moments where everything could change. The crew worked in synchronized silence. Some engineers modified communication circuits. Others studied captured alien technology fragments from previous encounters. They were building something unexpected, a strategy that would turn the collective's strengths into fatal vulnerabilities. Dong-hyuk showed Captain Park a series of complex diagrams. "We won't destroy their ships," he explained. "We'll make their own systems attack themselves." The plan was beautifully simple and incredibly complex. They would create digital viruses that looked like normal communication signals. These signals would slowly infiltrate the alien network, creating tiny disruptions that would grow exponentially. Imagine a perfect machine suddenly experiencing small, almost invisible glitches. First, a communication delay. Then, a navigation error. Slowly, these small problems would compound, creating massive system failures. The alien collective relied on perfect coordination. Their ships moved like a single organism, connected through advanced quantum communication networks. By introducing small, intelligent disruptions, the USS Blackstar could potentially paralyze their entire fleet. "They won't even know we're attacking," Yoona said, her eyes bright with excitement. "We'll be invisible." Captain Park understood the brilliance of the approach. Humans had always been adaptable. They didn't just fight, they found creative solutions. Where other species saw limitations, humans saw opportunities. The ship's prototype quantum processors began running complex simulation models. Each simulation showed different potential outcomes, analyzing millions of scenarios in milliseconds. The results were promising. Their strategy could work. Dong-hyuk continued explaining the technical details. The digital viruses would be intelligent, able to adapt and change. They would look like normal communication signals, slowly spreading through the alien network like a patient, invisible disease. "We're not just fighting," Dong-hyuk said. "We're thinking differently." The crew worked with a focused determination. Engineers modified systems. Computer specialists prepared complex algorithms. Everyone understood they were doing something unprecedented in human military history. Outside the ship's windows, space remained cold and dark. The alien fleet continued its approach, believing victory was certain. They had no idea what was waiting for them. Captain Park watched his team. They were not just soldiers. They were explorers, inventors, problem solvers. Their weapon was not massive guns or explosive missiles. Their weapon was intelligence, creativity, and an unbreakable human spirit. "Are we ready?" he asked. Dong-hyuk and Yoona exchanged a look. "We're ready," they responded together. The USS Blackstar moved silently through space, carrying a strategy that would change everything. The alien collective thought they knew how this battle would end. They were about to learn how wrong they were. Humanity's most unexpected weapon was about to be unleashed. Intelligence disguised as a whisper, the USS Blackstar glided through the alien fleet like a ghost, its advanced stealth systems rendering it nearly invisible. Haiwan Choi, the ship's AI specialist, sat perfectly still, her fingers hovering above quantum interfaces that pulsed with soft blue light. Captain Jiho Park watched the holographic displays. Thousands of massive alien ships surrounded them, each one potentially capable of destroying entire planetary systems. But today, they would become their own worst enemies. Donghyuk's digital viruses began their silent invasion. They looked like normal communication signals, sliding between alien network channels without detection. Each virus was intelligent, designed to adapt and spread like a living organism through the collective's technological nervous system. The first changes were microscopic. A communication delay here. A navigation coordinate slightly off there. So small that no individual ship would notice. But these tiny disruptions would grow, compounding into massive system failures. Haiwan's eyes tracked the spreading infection. "We're in," she whispered. Her voice was calm, almost emotionless. Years of training had taught her that precision mattered more than excitement. The alien ships continued their march, completely unaware. Their perfect coordination would become their greatest weakness. Each vessel relied on instantaneous communication with others. When those communications became unreliable, the entire fleet would begin to break down. Yuna Kim monitored external sensors. "No detection," she reported. "They have no idea." Quantum processors on the Blackstar ran thousands of simulations per second. Each simulation showed potential paths of digital destruction. The viruses were not just attacking, they were learning, adapting, finding new ways to spread confusion. In the engine room, engineers watched their custom-built systems with quiet intensity. They had designed something unprecedented, a weapon that attacked information itself. No explosions. No traditional warfare. Just pure, intelligent disruption. Captain Park understood the beauty of their strategy. Humans had always been adaptable. Where other species saw boundaries, humans saw opportunities. The alien collective believed their technology was perfect. They would soon learn how wrong they were. The first major disruption happened quietly. An entire squadron of alien ships suddenly lost synchronization. Their movement became jerky, unpredictable. Communication between vessels became delayed, then fragmented. Haiwan allowed herself a small smile. "First stage complete," she said. The digital viruses continued their silent work. They moved through quantum communication channels, changing tiny bits of data. A navigation coordinate here. A targeting system there. Small changes that would create massive chaos. Outside, space remained dark and cold. The alien fleet continued its seemingly unstoppable march. But beneath their metallic surfaces, something was changing. Their perfect machine-like coordination was slowly falling apart. Donghyuk watched the spreading disruption with scientific fascination. "They designed their systems to be perfect," he explained to Yuna. "But perfection is always vulnerable. Especially to something it doesn't expect." The USS Blackstar continued its silent journey through the alien fleet. No weapons fired. No traditional combat occurred. Just a quiet, intelligent invasion of information systems. Hours passed. The alien fleet's movement became more erratic. Ships began to drift slightly off course. Communication became increasingly difficult. What had been a perfectly coordinated machine was now becoming a confused, stumbling organism. Captain Park knew they were winning. Not through massive destruction. But through intelligence. Through understanding. Through the unique human ability to see solutions where others saw only problems.